Well, good evening, everybody. Charlie here with Red Summit RF. Call sign is November Juliet 7 Victor. Welcome to the All Portable Discussion Zone. It's a bi-weekly live stream all about amateur radio portable ops. And with me this evening are the show's two co-hosts, Dan, KC7MSU,
Good evening.
and Brian, W7JET.
Hey, everybody.
And we have a new guest, no guest tonight, actually. A new guest, no guest tonight on this episode. The three of us have prepared a few things to discuss. It's a new format we'll be trying out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But also, a warm welcome to all of you who are live in the chat room or watching or listening later on. If you have a comment or a question, go ahead and throw that in the chat feed, and we'll do our best to respond. And finally, don't forget that this show is converted to a podcast and is available through most podcast players about 24 hours after the show. And finally, you can become a channel supporter by clicking on the join button below, which gives you exclusive access to benefits, including interacting directly with us, the show's co-hosts. And also, for example, I have a giveaway that I'll be giving away this radio here, this Radioddity GS5B at some point in the near future for members who have joined who have clicked on the membership and are premium members. So happy Father's Day to everybody, and I hope you're having a good one. And I appreciate everybody joining us. Let's go ahead and see what's been going on the last few few weeks. Let's go ahead and start with Brian.
So let's see what has been going on. I gotta turn some stuff down so they can noise. Sorry about that. So let's see what's been going on. Well, let's see. I've been working. Weather's good. Picking up those summer bonus points. Been hitting the summits hard. I've actually done a couple of joint activations with Brad Garrett, K9JDE, and we've done a few summits. We did Carroll Spring and Timber Camp, and took a ride down to Mount Lemon, and did Mount Lemon and Bigelow. And we actually, and I've also, maybe I'll bring that in a little bit too for my stuff later. We actually had a volunteer park ranger come up on us while we were activating on Bigelow, and he turns out he's a ham. He hasn't been on the air in 30 years.
Oh, nice.
He's got his call sign in Hawaii. He's a retired astronomer. November Hotel 6, November Sierra, I believe, was the call sign. And he had his first HF contact in 30 years on Brad's IC705. He made a contact on 20 meters. He actually made two contacts in 20 years. That was a big kick for the both of us. And it was a beautiful day down there. We really enjoyed ourselves. And I did a solo activation up on Greens Peak and had fun with that. And I've just been keeping busy with that stuff. It's been good time. And chasing DX on HF and just flying and living life.
Cool. Okay. So, but Brian, there's a milestone coming up for you in Soda, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I think, at this point it's just bragging rights, right? What do you get? Like, there's it's a partition. Oh, it's kind of a pseudo participation trophy, I suppose, at this point. But yeah, I'm coming up on the 3,000 mark. In fact, I'm 50 points away from 3,000, so it'll be my third official mountain goat. So probably finish it up maybe during the field day weekend up north, or at least come close. It all depends upon how ambitious I get this week, because I'll have to probably do an extra summit down here, because there's only realistically 4 10-pointers in the area that'll put me over the top for that. I'm coming up on the Triple Mountain Goat.
Cool. Congratulations. I know you'd be almost a fourth one, but if you didn't have to stop for work. Remember that whole window where you had to take a year off a summit? So
pretty much, where I'd slow down a little bit, but that's okay. The summit, the whole activations now for me are just kind of like, I want to go out and get out and have some fun today. It's not I'm like, I got to do like eight summits today because I'm trying to hit the goal. But when it happens, it happens. It's just more about the fun now.
Yeah, it's my attitude as well. Cool. All right, Dan, what you got?
Hello, everybody. Happy Father's Day to everybody who are fathers, and it's always a good day when it's Father's Day rolls around. Let's see, last couple of weeks I've been just doing some arc welding for some project stuff, primarily for work, but I got something new on the back that I need to work on hopefully after the show today. And I finally got out to activate a summit only in June, so 6 months into the year, and finally got some points registered. So So that was wonderful. Really enjoyed it. Got to activate Porter Mountain, and it was a great day. It was about in the 70s, and it was
Did you
really
take
nice
your
up there.
new wife with you?
I did, and got some video, so I need to kind of meld all that together, and hopefully it'll turn out pretty good. So finally ditched the old GoPro that was always having problems and got a new one. So put uh, some film together, and hopefully get that up on the channel here in the next week or two. But that's the plan, anyways.
Cool. Sounds good.
Mm.
All right. Well, for me, I have been participating in what we call mini morning madness here in Arizona with my wife, Sandy. And so we've been getting up about once a week, usually on Thursday, about 4 in the morning, and driving to a summit, hitting the trail, hopefully no later than 5 a.m. and then on the summit. And we did just do a quick few, contacts just to get the points and enjoy the hike with a handheld. Don't really do HF that much. So been doing that, which has been a lot of fun because there's a lot of participation here in the Phoenix area with that. And, I think the last time I had like 8 or 9 contacts on VHF. So of course we get the 1296 or the 23 centimeters going as well a little bit too. And then also me too. I went up to Mount Lemon and I did a three summit activation just Friday where I did Lemon, Bigelow, and then Green Mountain. I tried a new route actually, and I like it better coming from the south than the north. But it was pretty fun. So that gave me 39 points because it was summer bonus and that on those peaks. And so Joe, what's his name? JT. Let's see if I can find his comment here. He says that he asked if I'm getting near number. Yeah, there it is. He says you're not close to number 4. Yeah, I'm close to number 4. I have 3,998 points, and so tomorrow morning I am going to be on Dixie benchmark, and that'll put me over the number of points to get my 4th mountain goat. And so that's kind of me. That's what I've been up to. So, okay, let's go ahead, and I think first we need to do is talk a little about the new format since we've mentioned it, and just kind of talk about our thoughts on what's going on here. So, Brian, what do you think?
So this is a little hat tip to amateurlogic.tv, Tommy Emil, and geez, I'm sorry, I'm spacing on names at the moment. I apologize. Anyway, we're all fans of the show, and we kind of like their format a little bit. So we decided we were gonna adopt some of the stuff that they do to shake things up a little bit in our channel here, and not just do straight interviews every time, but have a week where we kind of all bring something to the table. So this week is the first time. Bear with us. It might be a little clunky. We'll get better. We promise. But we all have our own personal interests and different things that we do within the hobby, and sometimes I have something interesting going on that you guys might want to hear about, and Dan has something going on, and Charlie has something going on. So we figured let's break the show up a little bit, and we'll try doing something like that.
Yeah. So we all have a topic today, and we'll be getting that. So I'm just real quick put Amateur Logic link in the chat so that people have that. Go check them out as well. Okay, so we all have a topic. I think Dan's going to talk a little about field day prep, and I am going to talk about what I've been doing with the Morse code bug the last little while, and then Brian is going to be talking about contesting of some sort, VHF contesting.
Yeah, we'll talk about VHF contesting and the magical world of the transverter.
Okay, cool. And we probably have a little demo stuff going on too, so we'll see how that goes. But let's see. If Dan, do you mind if we start with you?
That's fine. Be happy to. All right. So my topic today is a little bit on field day and preparing as a club to participate in field day. With our club is the Superstition Amateur Radio Club, and we have been participating in field day for years, and probably over the last 8, maybe 9 years, we've been participating from a location called Lost Eden here in Arizona, and it's a really nice site, and we're very thankful to have it. It's on private land. It's about what 66 acres, Charlie? Is that correct?
60 acres. Yep.
60 acres. Um, and it's actually it's up north of Clintswell by maybe 5 or 6 miles, and then you dive off onto a forest road, and you're pretty well isolated from everybody and everything.
Yeah,
So
it's
cell
completely
phones,
surrounded by forest, isn't it? Forest,
yeah,
but national forest is completely around it. Yep.
yep. And it's just a little oasis right in the middle of the forest, and cell phones fortunately don't work there and stuff. So we're left with pretty much just amateur radio, and we really love it. It gets up to, as high as, mid 90s sometimes, but sometimes it'll cool off in the middle of a rainstorm, and it'll be freezing at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon too. So we really enjoy it. Um, for us as a club, looks like this year we'll be right in the high 40s that have signed up so far, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I
As
couldn't
far
believe
as
that, Dan.
Yeah,
Like
those are
Yeah,
good numbers. I was
40
surprised by
people
that too.
there. Yeah, over
yeah,
40, right?
yeah, and so that'll make for a great field day photo. We've got some folks, at least two people who are not hams that are going to be visiting us from where I work. Um, so that's a lot of fun. We'll have a go-to station, so we'll be working with them on the go-to station and a few other folks to get them on the air for the first time, including my wife. So that'll be exciting.
Speaking
Um,
of wives, how many wives or XYLs do you think are going to be up there?
Uh, there's going to be at least 5 or 6 XYLs attending field day, and which is really good. We always have great conversations with them. We just need to get a few more of them on the radio so that we can get those extra points from the XYL voices.
Yeah, 20,
So we're
20
looking
dB a
forward to that.
gain. There's
That's it.
20 dB a gain.
That's right. Yep. So
So
I know my wife is going. Brian's wife is going. Your wife's going. I think Robert's wife is going, isn't she?
I'm not sure if she's going yet. He's still got one on his, but I'm hoping to convince him to have his wife come up.
Yeah. Cool.
So it'd be a whole lot of fun. Um, we operate our club actually is pretty fortunate. We've been in kind of acquisition mode over the last little while, and we've been lucky, and we've gotten a hold of some Kenwood 590s, and we've kind of outfitted those so that we can use headsets with them. We've got foot pedals and the whole 9 yards um, to work with that. And this year we instead of using wire dipoles this year, we're actually going to be using a rotatable dipole for 10, 15, and 20, and then we'll augment that with 140-meter antenna as far as club booths go. So um, it'll be really nice. We also have it's about a 10 by 20 foot long pop-up that we put up every year, and we're actually planning on corralling everybody, both stations, back in that particular unit, so we have more people available to help each other, etc. And it should be a lot of fun this year.
Yeah. So how do you? I mean, I know the answer to this, but just for the sake of the audience, just two stations is all that'll be going the whole time up there. The two club stations.
No, no, we'll have 2 club stations plus the go to station. So and then plus we also a lot of our folks bring their own stations up. We encourage that. It's the time to experiment with radios, antennas, and trying out new batteries and stuff. So we've got solar panels that we use for club stations and everything, and we encourage folks to come on out uh, and try that out. So we've got a lot of people that are now getting on that bug as far as operating fully battery. That's kind of the mode that we're in. And we enjoy having people come out and try out new antennas that they haven't had the opportunity to get up in the air yet. So
Yeah.
it's all about experimentation.
Yeah. So you're gonna do solar panel power, and then you also have filters, right?
Yep, we have some 20, 40, and I believe we have some for 15 as well running around. We kind of rely on individual amateurs for those. We have not procured them as a club yet, but that's something that's on our list. Each year we take some time and we decide what's the next thing that we would like to have that would help us out for field operations. So for us, we've got a much bigger interest nowadays in field operations, whether it's summer field day, winter field day, um, even participating in getting out for parks on the air with the group. So it's been really nice acquiring that equipment, so we can uh, kit that stuff up, and we can just pick up a kit and head out to whatever type of deployment that we're looking to do.
And the club, is it up here at Field Day coming up? Is it going to be a very serious endeavor to acquire top-notch points, or is it 100% casual, or kind of somewhere in the middle?
I wouldn't classify us as a big contesting club. Our forte is enjoying each other's company, having a lot of fun, um, enjoying a meal together, those kind of things. So we do fairly well. You and Charlie, or Charlie and Brian picks up most of the CW points, but we'll have another CW op up this year. So that'll be a lot of fun. So it'll be interesting to see how we do on single sideband. So how many people I can get over to the station and run single sideband. So
Go ahead, Brian. I know you got something to say.
Oh, I just heard you guys mentioning meal from last year, and I was wondering how much you guys enjoyed that meal.
Oh, that's the meal that shall not be spoken of, I think.
See,
Somebody needs to tell that story, though.
We
So
didn't.
let's-
We didn't have any problems. I guess I'll tell this story because I didn't even know this occurred. I think I got up that morning and I just went right to the radio and started operating, and no one really talked to me because I had the please don't bother
Headset.
me mode going on, and I was speaking the foreign language using the key, so nobody really knew. Generally, people don't bother you because we don't have a lot of CW operators in the club, and from what I remember, is people started coming up and started asking us how their night went, and I'm like, went fine. We slept.
Is that a trick question?
Like, and everybody seemed pretty shocked by that statement. Everybody was kind of wondering, well, all of a sudden we started, the story started coming out that the porta potties might be a very dangerous place to go right now. In fact, there might be people that will knock you over to get to them. So apparently there was something that didn't agree with a lot of people that last year. A lot of people had a really rough night.
So we have a potluck.
I didn't. We didn't. But
well,
for
so
some
the
reason,
club has a
else
potluck, right?
it was definitely potluck last year.
Yeah, it was potluck. Yeah, for sure. At least for a lot of people.
Mostly, it was more like good luck last year. So this year we won't really be doing that this year. So we're just going to encourage folks to make their own meal, and we'll all get together and not share food this year. So, but yeah, so that was a lot of fun. But
that's funny. Yeah.
But we enjoy getting out. So we leave on Thursday morning to drive up the club vehicles and stuff, along with the club equipment, so we can get that up in the air first thing on Friday morning. As well as we do some stuff around the property, especially this year, to say thanks to the owner. So we've got some fence repair to do, and this year also we'll be selecting a primary and a backup site for putting up a new antenna tower over the next year. So that's one of our big projects that we're going to be working on. So we're planning on getting the two locations put together, as well as hopefully getting a hole dug and getting a foundation in this year. So next year we'll hopefully be able to, ahead of field day, get the tower up and actually utilize that next year. So that's a lot of fun. Like I was saying, communications is really, as far as cell phones, you really have to hunt for in order to get a signal out. So we also have a couple satellite phones around as well for other emergency communications. So um, and what else are we going to be doing? So we'll have some games this year and those sorts of things. So get out with some
Nice.
folks and maybe do a little hiking. Typically, we get up there a little bit early so we can hopefully hit a soda hill. That's always a lot of fun. So prior to um, getting the contest going on Saturday morning, we like to get out and hopefully on Friday and put a few soda points up as well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, before we move on here real quick, Ham Reader 2.0, Jason is in the house, and he has a live stream right after this one. So go ahead and check him out at what would that be? It's 5 o'clock. Our time would be 7 p.m. Central, I think. So right after this, go ahead and check him out. Anything else to add for field day, Brian?
I was going to say, well, from us, we have, so we picked up to make things a little bit easier this year. We got a triplexer. So we're actually going to be able to run 3 radios off of one antenna with the rotatable dipole. And it's the full key down is 200 watts per band. So we can run all 3 radios at the power limit on them, which is 100 watt, or well, 2 of the 3 on, which is at 100 watts. We've got band pass filters to make sure we don't interfere. And then Charlie and I, like usual, will be off on our own somewhere else in the place that nobody likes to go, because all we do is beep and bop and
CW Outer Darkness.
make a lot of noise. And that goes on all day and all night generally. And we usually bounce between 20, 40. We'll probably even do 15 this year, because 15 and even 10 have been pretty good. So maybe we'll mess around with those a little bit. The field day site's great. I mean, it's a nice spot. It's quiet. It's cool. The nice part about it is it's in the middle of the national forest, but it's a piece of private property. So we don't have to deal with somebody coming in, because it's, the Coconino National Forest is dispersed camping. So it's first come, first serve. So don't get there early enough. You might not get a spot big enough to accommodate a group of our size, but we don't have that problem at all now. We have a gate. It's closed. It's locked. We go through. We're in there, but we're still in the middle of the national forest. And technically it's Forest Service land, even though it's on private property. So the whole time we're there, we're actually doing POTA too, because we're in the middle of Coconino. So if you do work K7K, which is the club's call that we use for field day, you'll be talking to us. If it's on CW, you'll definitely be talking to myself or Charlie, because I believe we're the only 2 CW operators this year for the club. And if you're talking on phone, you'll be able to figure out by the voice who you're talking to. Our go-to station is actually going to be our club's call sign, which is WB7TJD, Whiskey Bravo 7 Tango Juliet Delta, or as some of the old guys like to say, we bring 7 tasty jelly donuts. So if you work us, if you work the go-to station, or you work WB7TJD, you're working our go-to station. And the go-to station's worth 5 points. You're using a separate call, but it's still worth, each one of those QSOs is worth 5 points. So that's a home run right there. And there'll be a coach, and there'll be somebody helping that person out to help them get through. If you guys have any questions, or you're not 100% sure about how some of the field day points work and stuff, there's a lot of really good stuff out there. The go to station specifically in this week's ARRL on the air podcast, they go over the go to station rules. So if you're not sure, find the podcast on whatever podcast player you use and listen to it. It'll explain it all. And then there's some other good sources as well. They talk about it in a few of the other podcasts also, but there's, if you're not sure about how the go to the station works, they do a really good job of explaining it in the on the air podcast that just was just put out about a week ago.
Cool.
Another advantage to this property that we use is it's in the middle of the forest, but it's not as susceptible to the forest fires that we've had over the last several years here in Arizona. So we've been able to participate even though some of the other forests have been closed down. And fortunately for this year, and I think it's pretty much the same way even in California and in Colorado and Nevada, there's not a lot of fire restrictions this year due to the heavy snowfall that we all enjoyed this year. And the forests are pretty moist. We've had very few fires. So we've been very fortunate. Looks like there'll be a lot of organizations in Arizona out participating in field day. So, get on the air and try and hit some of the stations out here.
All right, cool. All right, guys, once again, a reminder, go ahead and put your comments or questions below in chat. We'll try to bring them up if they're relevant or if they're a good question. Well, all questions are good questions, but if it's relevant and pertinent to what we're talking about. So I guess let's go to Brian and let him go next, and let's talk about, I guess, inverters and VHF contesting.
All right. So VHF contesting, especially for Summits on the Air folks, and even for Parks on the Air folks, height is might for VHF, right? Line of sight, UHF, 1.2 gig, all the way up. The higher you are, the better you're going to get out. You pick a good spot close to a population center, and you could clean up on 2-meter sideband or FM. I was going to participate in the June VHF contest this year, but I had a good friend that I haven't seen in 2 years show up in town on Saturday, and decided he could spend the night in our guest room here, and I decided that was way more important to me than the VHF contest was this year. So I didn't do June, but I was all set up for it. Normally I go out and I've slowly grown. So for those that aren't aware, Arizona, we have a very large presence in the January VHF contest for portable. In fact, there's been a couple of write-ups in QST about our participation, because at one year we had, I think, 30 summits active during the January VHF contest on Sunday, and amounted to a ton of points for the portable category, and for the rovers especially that flock to Arizona. We usually have at least 4 rover stations running around. I won't get into rovers because I could take up the next 30 minutes of the show really going down the rabbit hole with the contesting. So I'm just going to specifically talk broadly about what you can do from a Summits on the Air portable category type of operation. When I go out and do my VHF activations, or my VHF contest activations, which also include the 222 and up contest in June, I do it QRP portable. So I do it the most basic category: handheld antennas, single transmitter, and everything is 5 watts or less. So I don't run any power at all. And I do phone and some CW if there's operators, and I don't do any digital because I don't bring the computer with me for that. I do recommend that if you are going to do any kind of contest activity for VHF or for the VHF contests, use a computer with a program that's capable of logging for contesting, because it gets really fast and really furious, and you will miss out on points. I can do the last VHF contest I did. I operated for 5 hours. I did 175 contacts in 5 hours. If I was handwriting that log would have been a mess, and I would have lost out on a lot. I've won 2 years, 2 different contests. I've won for North America for the portable category, doing this type of format. So I do all the bands now from 6 through 1.2 gigahertz. I do 6 meters, 2 meters, 220, 440, 900, and 1.2. I originally started out just sideband on 2 meters, 440, and 6 meters, and then I had HTs for 900, 220, and 1.2 gigahertz. Now I've got transverters, so I can do all modes on all the bands from 6 through 1.2. So for those that don't know what a transverter is, it's a magic box. It's got a local oscillator in it and some filtering, and it has usually a lower or a higher frequency that you drive it with, and you need another radio to drive it. So in my case, it's an FT817, but anything that's capable of producing a signal on the band that the IF is recommended for. So for my 220 transverter, which we're going to demonstrate here in a little bit, that uses a 10-meter IF. So I transmit on 10 meters. It goes through the box, through the local oscillator, through the filter, and comes out the other side on the appropriate 220 frequency, and goes out. And normally, most of the transverters will do whatever mode you're putting through it. So if you're going to do FM, it'll run FM through it, AM, sideband, CW, or a digital mode if you're going to use one of those carriers for it. Now, some of them will specifically tell you that they only do certain things. Most of the transverters have an attenuator built into them as well, so you don't damage the circuitry by driving too much power through it and cooking the box inside, because sometimes the circuit inside of it might not be able to handle more than a watt. So there's a attenuator built in there. So if you run 5 into it, it drops it down to the appropriate power so it doesn't hurt it. There's a small PA in there that'll put it out the other side, depending upon the unit. Sometimes they're 5 watts, sometimes they're 12 watts. My 221 does 12 watts, and my 1.2, which I'll hold up for the camera so you can see them. This is the 900 meg one, I believe. Yeah, this is the 900 meg one. It also does. I also have a 1.2 that's identical. At least that's what it looks identical to the other one. Depending upon what type of operation I'm doing, I have these little PC board beams that are good enough for what I'm doing. Because again, I've got the advantage of height, but I also have some multi-element beams for places where I'm not going to be hiking up, and I can spare the weight and bring those up with me and get a little bit more gain off of that 1 watt. But it works quite well. I've done contacts over 100 miles away on 1.2 gig with a watt and a 5-element beam. So let's see. We'll talk about the a little bit more about the VHF contesting. So main thing when you're selecting a location to go to, you want to try to make sure it's got a nice clear view of a populated area, that you know there's people that are going to be on. Try and get to know what the rovers are. Monitor the calling frequencies. That's where the activity is going to start. Once you grab somebody, the best thing to do with them is say, what other bands do you have? And they'll say, I can do 6, I can do 440, I can do 2 meters, I can do whatever. And then take them and run them up the band. So as soon as you get done with them on the band you're on, say, where do you want to go next? And usually they'll say, I can be on 6 meters right now, or I can be whatever right now. What logging program does it have? So I'm looking at Kyle's question. What logging program and does it have cat control to help do some of the that back end of logging? So I use N1MM. I don't interface it with the radio, only because since I'm using the transverters a lot. If it reads the radio, it's going to read whatever the IF frequency is going to be, which is either going to be 2 meters or the 10 meter frequency. So I just manually type the frequency in. If you're familiar with N1MM, and again, I can go down the rabbit hole and take up hours worth of the show explaining N1MM, so we won't do that. But each program has its own ways of doing it. N1MM, if you in the call sign line, you can type in the frequency, hit enter, and then type in the mode and hit enter, and it'll, until you change it, it'll keep logging on that frequency. You can set up N1MM, and my radios at home are set up on N1MM to read the radio itself, the cat control, and it will know automatically what frequency is on, and I can change the frequencies by typing in that command line and typing in the mode, and it'll manipulate the radio for me. But because of the transverters and the lack of sophistication of the 817, I do not use cat control when I'm operating on the mountain. So I just have to be a little bit more diligent about hitting the buttons. One of the good things about contest logging is they don't really care about the exact frequency. You just want the band and the correct mode for your operating. So if you're operating on 900, 902 dot whatever is fine. And FM, sideband, and even FM or sideband doesn't really matter unless you're entered in a specific category. If you're entered FM only, then you want to make sure it's FM, obviously. But the only thing they're really looking for when they do the check log is it CW, is it phone, or is it digital? Because that's the 3 things you're looking for. And if you were doing a logbook of the world confirmation, logbook of the world cares about 5 things: date, time in UTC plus or minus 15 minutes, call sign, band, mode. Doesn't care about signal reports. Doesn't care about the exact frequency, just cares about the band. So as long as you're logging it with the correct band when the program does its match, those are the things it's looking for. And all it's going to look for is, was it 20 meters? It doesn't care if it was 14.350 or 14.010. That's all it's looking for. It's just going to go with those items. So hopefully that answered that question. Where was I going before? We were talking about the transverters, right? I got myself off track there, Charlie.
Let's see. We were talking about transverters, and then you were where were you going?
We're talking about antennas height. So height, yes. So we're talking about just make sure you're in a spot where you can and working up the bands with someone. So if you grab somebody that you're working on a VHF contest specifically, you want to get them as many bands as you can, and different bands have more multipliers, so that the lowest hanger, the lowest points in a VHF contest are going to be for 6 meters and 2 meters. And then the rest of the bands you'll get more points for. 1.2, 2.4, 10 gigahertz. I don't have any 10 gigahertz equipment. I'm going to eventually get a 2.4 gig transverter, just because there are some people that do it and they're worth a fair amount of points. 902 and 220 and 440 give you more points. So the more you can work up from 6 meters, the more points you're going to get. So if you've got somebody that's got all the bands you have, you want to make sure you get them on every one of those bands all the way up, because every one of those counts as a new contact. Go ahead.
So if you want to participate in this, you do a Summits on the Air type VHF contest, and you want to cover all those bands, what's the outlay as far as equipment? So you have you need a radio, and it's and it's a 2-meter radio, I guess, right? Or a 10 meter.
Well, yeah. So let's say you just want to try it out one year, and you want to have fun. You live next to a populated area, so a 2-meter 440 HT and a radio capable of doing 6-meter sideband will get you going. And if there's a lot of people, you can probably do fairly well. You could do it from a mountaintop. You can do the entire thing with HTs if you wanted to. 6 meters, you're not going to find as many FM contacts as you would on sideband. So having the sideband on 6 meters would be beneficial. But for 2 meters, 220 and 440, there's usually enough people around with FM capable radios that you can get those contacts in. We all know sideband is more efficient over long distances with a directional antenna. So having a directional antenna will help. Even on 2 meters, it'll help a lot because you can kind of point things around. My 2-meter FM setup, I use a roll-up J-pole when I'm on top of the mounts. I don't even bother with a beam. My antennas for 6 meters are a dipole. For 2 meters and 440, I use an elk log periodic. I have a 3-element diamond handheld antenna that I use for 220 sideband. I have the PCB antennas for 900 and 1.2, but I also have a 9-element beam for 900, and then I have a 9-element beam for 5-element beam for 1.2, and those are used on the transverter. I also have HTs for 900 and 1.2 for FM. One of the things you'll run into, let's see, Kyle, I'll get to your question in 1 second, Kyle, so I don't lose my train of thought, but I'll grab you next. And then depending upon what I'm doing, because some of the transverter specifically, because of the spread and the way the oscillator and the filtering works, because the bands are wide enough and the units are narrow enough, you have to, in these particular transverters, you have to set a portion of the band. So if you want to use it in the 900 one specifically, if you want to use it in the FM portion, or where your repeaters are going to be in the FM simplex frequencies are, you have to set a jumper inside. And once you set that jumper, it won't work down in the low portion of the band where the calling frequencies are for 902 sideband and that sort of thing. So then you'd have to switch it. So I have the HT specifically now to be able to do the FM portion of that band, because not everybody has sideband on 902. And the same thing goes with 1.2. Switching from one to the other sometimes can be a little cumbersome. So I have the transverters are all set up for sideband because I'm obviously using an FT817, which is all mode for those. And then I have Alinco, the Alinco G29 and the Alinco G7 HTs. One has 900 and 220 in it, and the other one is 2 meters 440 and 1.2. The faster I can get from radio to radio, the better. So I try to leave all the radios set up for each one so I can just grab them and go fast and furious and try and get those contacts in and roll on to the next guy, because it's a contest. So you want to get as many in as you can. So let me read Kyle's question here now, so I didn't lose my train of thought before. Kyle, let's see. When band passing, do you have specific frequencies in mind to meet for VHF? We do that in HF contesting. So so there's the calling frequencies. If you look at the ARRL band plan, generally everybody sticks to the calling frequencies for the particular mode. So if you're going to be on 6 meters, it's going to be 50.125. For sideband on 2 meters, it's going to be 144. 200 for phone. For 440, it's going to be 432.1, I believe, if I remember that correctly. If I'm wrong, don't take that like it's coming from the burning bush, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. For 220, it's going to be 222.100 for phone and 222.200 for CW. 902, it's going to be 902.1 for phone. For sideband. For FM, it's going to be 927.5. Here's something this is a little piece of information. There's a lot of commercial equipment out there available for 902. But One of the problems you will run into it with is the filtering in the commercial equipment is terrible. In fact, the radio doesn't really even hear at all down at the 902 portion of the band. So if you're going to try to operate 902 100 FM, you're not going to hear anybody. The radio is not going to be able to filter it. It's just not going to work. So you're going to have to stick to the recommended calling frequency for FM, which is 927.5. And then you'll run into guys, especially the rovers, because the equipment they're using doesn't really work well up at 927.5. So you might actually not be able to make that contact simply because they can't operate there. And then for 1.2, same thing. That's 1296. I want to say 100. And again, I can't remember the exact frequencies off the top of my head. I'll look them up, so I apologize. But if you look at the ARRL's band plan, if you stick to the calling frequencies and then move off, you're going to be fine. Sometimes you'll have some local custom frequencies. Like we have an FM frequency that we use here locally. It's the unofficial SOTA calling frequency for Arizona. Everybody sits on it, and that's generally where if I'm running the contest, that's where I start out. For FM on 2 meters, it's going to, or on 220, it's going to be 223,500. For 440, it's 446,000, and so on and so forth. They said I already gave you the 900, the 33 centimeter 900 meg frequencies. So that's usually how it goes. And most of the time you'll work that out with whoever you're talking to. Where do you want to go next? And they'll usually tell you, hey, I can do this. Can you do that? I can do, sometimes they'll ask, can you do 220 side? Yes, I can do 220 side. Okay, let's go to sideband. I'm already set up for sideband, because sometimes, especially for the rovers, it's harder for them to switch to an FM mode because they're true VHF contesters in every sense of the word, and FM is not going to be their first choice. They're going to be set up for sideband simply because of the efficiency and the polarization of their antennas. Because generally, when you're doing sideband and you're looking for distance, you're going to be horizontally polarized, not vertically polarized. FM, most people are going to be vertically polarized, hence the reason why I use that roll-up J-pole for my FM on 2 meters and 440. And then on 220, I'll use the HT with the rubber duck, and I have the beam set up with the transverter for sideband.
Quick question, Brian. So
Sure,
if I've got 1 or 2 mobile radios, and I've got a roll-up J-pole, and I've got an arrow antenna, and I've got a beam for my 1296. What can I expect if I put that up on top of a mountain? Just attach it to a collapsible pole.
You can expect to have a really good time. You will work a lot of people. At least in our area, I can tell you. I can't speak for every part of the country, but a little bit of height. And you could hear a lot of people, and especially for the rovers, if you've got the more modes you have, the rovers are usually where the money is. One of the things that too, and I should bring this up about the VHF contest, is you can work the same person, the rover, multiple times as they go into different grids. So if you work them on all 5 bands and they're in DM43, which is my grid, and then they drive and they go to DM42, which is down by Tucson, you can work them again and run them all the way up through all the bands. And it's a whole new contact, it's a whole new set of points, and it's a multiplier because they're in a different grid. And then they'll go to DM33 and as they drive through all these grids, you can keep working them. And they'll tell you, hey, I'm going to be in this grid in an hour. Are you still going to be here? Yeah. I'll start out on 144, 200. I'll start out on sideband. Look for me there. So you try to pick a frequency that you're going to sit on, and most of the time that's where it's going to start. So for me, because of the number of radios that I have, I will usually everything is set. Now, to stick to the rules of the contest, I don't operate as an SO2R, so I'm not talking on 2 radios at the same time. I'm not running on one or running on the other. I start on one and go all the way through, because if I was using 2 radios at the same time, completely different category, SO2R or multiple radios, and that's not what you're supposed to do. So I will sit on one frequency and work, and then as the rovers come through, we'll move around. But I always go back to that same frequency, and it all depends upon what's going on with the contest. So it's usually going to be, for me, I'm going to sit on 2 meters. Let's see, Jeff, what are the 2 meter plus SSB rigs that are available on the market right now? All right, so new radios. Would be the ICOM 705, I believe, is the only portable level multi-mode production level radio that's out right now. The 817 and the 818 are both canceled, but they do quite well. Those of you want to stay light. If you want to go a little heavier, you can buy an ICOM IC 9700 that's got 2 meters 440 and 1.2 in it. It's going to put out 100 watts, which will knock you out of the portable category. You'd then become a fixed station because you're running above the QRP level. Yes, Andrea actually had her rover set up at I'm talking about Kyle's comment here, A0Z, and Andrea actually had her rover parked over with all the vehicles. If you went to Hamvention, it was there on, I think, Saturday. It was there all day, and she was showing it off to people. She was busy talking, so I didn't speak to her, but I looked inside, and there's several guys here in the valley that do that setup that way. They have a rotator on the roof so they can turn their beams. So they don't have to actually turn the whole vehicle when they want to go in on different spots. So the main thing is there's a lot of stuff out there radio wise. It's all in how much you want to carry. But just remember, if you go above 5 watts, you are no longer in the portable category anymore. You now become a fixed station. It's a single operator station. You're not in a building. And I have to look at the rules, but once you go above that 5 watts level, you change your category. So if you want to stay in the portable category, you have to stay below that you have to stay down in that QRP zone. Let's see.
All right. Do you have a demonstration?
I think we do, Charlie. So we tried this earlier, and Charlie had his radio up. So I'm gonna fire up the old cell phone here so you guys can see the radio, because I have it all set up and ready to go on 220. Now, I'm the only one that has a 220 radio capable of doing sideband. So what we're going to do is I've got it set up. We have a 220 repeater here in the valley that's on FM that's linked to a 440 repeater. And Charlie earlier, we did a test to make sure it was going to work. So let me get myself logged into
while you're doing that
via my cell phone.
KD2YDN Ruck and Radio says, hoping VHF gets as active here in the Northeast. A lot of info so far I didn't know. Some op grid squares for points above 5 watts, not portable, etc. So yeah, it's all about where you're how you're, if you're in populated areas. That's kind of the thing. If you're in rural areas, it's not so fun. Probably you have to travel to somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky here in the Valley of the Sun. There's a lot of portable operations on VHF and UHF that everybody's active in. So everybody looks for those.
All right, I'm logging in here, Charlie. You're going to see me. I'm in the waiting room all of a sudden. All right, there we are. That's a really not a great shot of my nose. Let's not do that.
Jeff,
you guys don't need to know if I have a bat in the cave or not. So let's see here. Is there a way for me to turn? I don't think there's a way for me to turn the camera around. So we're going to turn it this way so you can see the 817. I'm going to turn the light off behind it because it's washing it out. There we go. All right. So I'm going to hold the phone.
Hold on.
Again, sorry for the clunkiness. All right. You all ready there? All right. So I'm going to point stuff out. So this is what I have my finger on. This is the 220 megahertz transverter. This is the ones that are available on eBay. They're less than $100. They're out of Ukraine. I'm told by people that can actually test these things and really know their stuff, electrical engineer types, that this is a good at QRP levels, but if you want to run an amplifier through it, it's a little junky as far as the signal it puts out. So it might upset some people in your neighborhood if they do 220 stuff. And then, as you can see on the front of the 817, the frequency that I'm receiving on for the repeater, it's 30.680, and when I key down on it, it's going to go down to 29. Down 1.6, so down to 29, and it's actually coming out on 220 frequencies. So I'm going to go ahead and give Charlie a call here now. NJ7V, NJ7V, W7JET.
Maybe send it again. I don't know if I had my volume down.
Here it comes again. NJ7V. NJ7V, W7JET.
W7JET, NJ7V.
All right, we're doing a little demonstration here of the transverter coming from 220, going out on the UHF side now. And that's the system here. W7JET.
Very good. Now let me bring that off and that off.
I'm going to leave.
Right. Cool. That was pretty cool.
All right. So yeah, that was a demonstration there. We were using 10 meters to excite the 220 transverter through the local oscillator and filtering, we were coming out on 223.680 megahertz. And that's the repeater here on the Bank of America building in downtown Mesa that's linked to UHF.
Kyle's always got a comment. He says,
But-
Dan, where's your second camera? You're missing out, buddy.
You see, they don't know the pre-production joke about when we were figuring out what we were going to do today, and we were waiting on one particular person, so we had a nice banner.
Yeah, go ahead and tell him that one.
So Charlie being the taskmaster that he is, because this is a fine, well-oiled machine thanks to his leadership and supreme skill.
Yes.
He forwarded out the banner for the show, and we were all excited. And it's got that great picture of the three of us standing there with our award that we were part of. That when we won the for multi-operator station, the Arizona QSO party a few years ago. So it said, Charlie, CW and keys, Brian VHF contesting, and then a bunch of periods and Dan, because we didn't quite know what Dan was going to do.
Thinking about that one.
Dan was still working on it, and I was actually, I thought it was funny. We all know Dan's a solid individual, but it was pretty funny. I thought we should have kept that person.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's. I guess I'm up now. I'll take it.
Yeah,
We got about
Charlie.
what? What's that?
It's over to Charlie now.
Yeah. We've got about 8 minutes left. I think I can cover pretty much what I wanted to. So, Jim N4JAW, who you all know on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, he's a great POTA guy. I really appreciate a lot of things that he's done. And anyway, he, along with a few others that I can't remember at the moment. So if you want to come forward so I can blame you for all of my lost time and money, they all suggested that I learn how to use a bug. And up at this point, before I got involved in that, I was like, I'm just a paddle guy with a keyer. That's all I need. I'm just going to stick with that. That's all I want to do. But eventually, after some prying and prodding, I said, okay, I'll try it. So first thing I did to try it is I met with a guy named Jim, KF7E. Now, Jim is a guy who is a prolific bug operator. And what's more, he's a collector of bugs and I think a historian. The guy knows everything there is to know about bugs. He's got bugs as far back as the early 1900s, and he's got a whole wall of them. I don't know how many he has, 20 or so. I don't know. But he was rattling off specific things about the bugs and what made them unique and stuff. Just a great guy. So I was over at his house visiting, and he lent me one of his bugs. Let me add this here, and I will show you. Let me scoot over here. And this one right here is the bug that he lent me. And it's a really beautiful bug. And I spent some time trying to learn how to use a bug. And I want to just demonstrate real quick what the difference between a bug and a paddle is for some of you guys who may not know. Turn my radio on here. And you won't be able to see the menu here because but it doesn't matter because every menu is different in a radio. But what I have the BK unselected here, which means that I won't be sending the signal out on the air. But then I have the keyer selected. So most every radio today has a built-in keyer, and basically what a keyer is it's a electronic mechanism that when it receives a signal from one side of a paddle, it'll send DAWs, and from the other, it'll send DITs automatically. And I'll just demonstrate that with the sculpture I have right here. So here are some DITs and then some DAWs. Okay. So, but if you keep your radio in the keyer mode, what's going to happen if you use a bug, which is not the same as a paddle, is if I push to the left, I get DITs. If I push to the right, I get DITs. So then if I deselect the keyer here and I go back to the sculpture and push the right paddle, I don't get anything. But the left, I just get a solid tone. That's because when you deselect your keyer, you're putting your radio in straight key mode. And so if I had a straight key right now, I could start banging out straight key code. But so a bug is kind of a semi-automatic semi-automatic straight key, because it has a mechanical dit, which you can see that bar right here is just kind of swinging with it. It has a spring. And then on the right, you still have the straight key mode. So if I hold this right button, this right paddle down, it's just a straight tone again. So what you have to do is you have to learn how to send your DAWs and anticipate your dits when you're using a bug. So if I send my call, my first letter I'm going to send is a DAW, which is this right here. But I've got to time that. So here's how it goes. So, you've got to send your own DAWs like you would in straight key, but then your dits are automatic. So this is pretty much how it goes for a paddle. So I was learning on Jim's key, but then as you saw right here, let me demonstrate this. This right here is the paddle that I got from Dayton, and I'm happy with it now. And so the next thing I wanted to mention was the left and right hand controversy. So maybe I'll end with that, because I got a few comments about how, as I was learning, some people said, "Hey, a bug is a left and a right bug. It isn't just like a paddle where there's no left or right really. All you got to do is switch your internal radio settings, and you can change the dits and the DAWs on the paddle. Whereas a bug, since it's mechanical, they actually create and build left-handed bugs, which I didn't know. And so at first I was poo-pooing that idea. And by the way, Dick, a friend of mine, mentioned, he said, "Why don't you change the pad and the I guess whatever this is, switch it around so you can see it's different." Let me see if I can zoom in here just a little bit. You can see how it's the opposite of this one here. The long piece is on the left here, the long piece is on the right here. So I was thinking, because he was saying, "Hey, that might make it more comfortable for you to use left-handed." But somebody else mentioned that I should actually just acquire a left-handed bug, or I should learn how to send right-handed. So as a kind of tongue-in-cheek video earlier, I sat down and I started sending with my right hand, and I was surprised. And I will say that mechanically it felt better, even though I'm left-handed. It felt better when I was sending with my right hand, which amazed me. And so I think there's truth to what the guy said. I did switch around the paddles here, and Dick, I really appreciate you suggesting that. I didn't find much of a difference really with it, but I might end up switching it back. But it was a good suggestion and something I wanted to try. So that's pretty much my short demonstration on the bugs, and I will kind of keep you guys updated on more as time goes on. So I wanted to mention. Well, before we do that, let me just go ahead and open it up for any other questions there might be. And then I have a few announcements, and we're going to have to wrap this up so that we can get everybody over to Jason's stream. So, Brian and Dan, any questions?
I would just like to say that in my own defense, that due to the amount of money that Charlie has spent on keys, that is why I'm not learning CW very well. That's where I'm going with this.
It's too expensive to learn CW. All right. Well, I wish I could go through all these questions here and comments, but I think that the time is short. So let me just close with one announcement, and that is there's a special stream that's going to come up. And actually, Brian and Dan actually don't know about this right now, but there's a special stream. It's going to be on July 8th. It's a Saturday morning, and it's right after Coffee and Ham Radios. Our time, it's going to be 8:30. So UTC, that puts it at what, 15:30, I think. 15:30 UTC on Saturday, July 8th. We're going to have a couple of friends of mine from the UK on. So there's a guy named Chris, Mike Zero, Romeo Sierra Foxtrot, and Fraser, Mike Zero, Echo Foxtrot India. They both have YouTube channels, and they have some really enjoyable videos on there. They're both the UK soda guys, well, UK portable ops guys. And they actually started a live stream of their own with a couple of other guys. So I think there's 4 or so guys that do a live stream over in the UK. Well, I was talking. Chris suggested actually that we kind of combine and maybe do a live stream together. And so we're gonna host the UK fellows on our live stream and have them all come on, and we're just going to talk about whatever, just portable ops, the differences between UK and US or whatever. Just have a good time, get to know them, and just be friendly and have some good discussions. So don't forget that, Saturday, July 8th. So that's all I have. Again, happy Father's Day to you guys. Let me just go around the horn here real quick and let Dan and Brian say any closing remarks, and then we'll end this thing.
I just want to say happy Father's Day to everybody again out there. And actually, I may end out on a hill tomorrow since I have the day off. So everybody beware. I may be lurking somewhere in Phoenix on a hill.
Okay, yeah, I'll be out there, so that's great.
I'm going to say happy Father's Day to everybody, and look forward to hearing everybody on the air for Field Day and hearing all the stories afterward. So if you have a good time, if you happen to work us, drop us a note, let us know. Said K7K and WB7TJD. Hear those two calls on Field Day, you're a good chance you might be talking to one of us, or we might be hearing you. So say hi, let us know.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here and chat, and for all those who are listening later. We're going to say 73. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks. See you later.
Bye, everybody.